What's up, everybody? It's Rob Gill, Epic Financial Strategies. Today we're going to discuss what is the current estate tax limit and what you need to know about estate planning. So what's up, folks? Just so you understand, like today, grab your pen and piece of paper. We have a special guest in Mike Gorman. What's up, Mike? How you doing?
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. And what Mike's going to share with you is really how to, as an entrepreneur, have your future self thank you by the decisions that you make today.
All right, we'll give that a shot.
Let's step right in and let's talk about what is current estate tax limit.
Well, the limit itself is $11,580,000. It's indexed for inflation each year. So at the end of this year, it'll go up yet again. But don't be romanced by the number. Here's what happens, okay? While each of us has an $11,580,000 exemption, most people say, I don't have a federal estate tax problem. But here's the problem. Well, actually, it even gets a little bit better than that because I can take my exemption, and if I pass away, I can leave it to my spouse. He or she adds it to theirs. They almost have over a $23 million exemption. So for most of us, we say, I don't have a federal estate tax problem. Why do I even bother watching this video?
Wait, Mike, let me just make sure I understand. Each spouse gets an $11 million exemption?
Exactly.
So that's about 23 million.
That's right.
Whoa, I thought it was 5 million per spouse.
It was, and then with the Tax Act in 2017, then it was rose.
That's the money train, everybody. Everybody, that's the money train. Dad, I'm sorry about that.
Then it rose from 5 million to 10 million. And as I talk about that, it's indexed for inflation each year. So it goes up by a couple $100,000 each year.
So if I'm to understand this correctly, basically the surviving spouse gets everything tax-free.
And
income tax-free.
Estate tax-free.
Yep.
But under current law, there's a step up in basis, which means that capital gains are forgiven at death. So not only does the inheriting spouse get an estate tax-free, they also get an income tax-free. What a great deal.
Wow. So when you sit down with folks, how do you go about proper planning to really understand that things will change over the next 10 and 20 years? What do you look at and how do you kind of take people through that process?
I tell them, do not be romanced by the current exemptions because they will change. I just did a study, went back to 1900s when the estate tax was first implemented. And every time the federal deficit gets too far over its skis, you'll see an increase in the estate tax rate and a decrease in the exemptions. So after World War I, after the Depression, the stock, not the first one, 1929, but 1934, you saw a skyrocket in the estate tax rate up to about 70%. And after World War II, it went up to 77%. Most people say that's impossible. It could not have been that high. For 30 years, the estate tax rate was 77%. Check that out. Today, so since I got into this business in the mid-1970s, it was at 77% then and has climbed down consistently to now the estate tax rate is 40%. The exemptions, on the other hand, the amount that's not taxable, the excludable amount, went from 600 to 1 million, and then to 2 million, and then to 5 million, and now to 11 million, and it's indexed for inflation. About 10 years ago, then they now allowed you to carry over the unused exemption to the surviving spouse.
Got it.
But things are changing, and they're changing rapidly.
To your point, are they changing rapidly because we're in a situation where they're printing a lot of money? And it's really that bifurcation of inflation and trying to figure out how they could get the money back?
It is. If our deficits are too high, and so we're almost stuck in a zero interest rate range because if we raise interest rates, all the treasuries, indebtedness causes a budgetary problem. So we're going to have to raise rates, income tax rates and estate tax rates. Now, which would you rather do? Would you rather pay income tax now? Or would you rather have me tax you when you're dead? Which one would you prefer, Rob?
When I shuffle off this mortal coil.
That's what I would think, right? The reason being is, look, don't take money off my table. I got educations, I got bills to pay and all those different things. So tax me when I'm dead, but as an estate planning attorney, I know methods that we can, say, monkey around so that we won't pay any estate tax if we take the proper steps to eliminate it.
So quick question for all the folks that are out there that they've done proper planning through the years. Should they be going back, looking at their estate planning documents to keep up with the current laws that change, let's say if they did something 5 or 10 years ago?
Absolutely, and here's why. Right now, while we have this large exemption, it's going to roll back in 2025 if there is no legislative changes at all from the 10 to the 5,000 index for inflation. But depending on the election that's coming up, if we have a change, some of the proposals are limit that exemption all the way back to $3.5 million.
Okay.
So you're sitting there with a 23 million combined exemption thinking, I've got no problems. And now you have a $7 million exemption, and now you may have problems.
So let me repeat this to everybody. So if I was to pass away today, there's a $23 million exemption between me and my wife, but let's say after 2024, if it gets reduced down to $7 million, if we passed away in 2025, the exemption's only $7 million.
Well, it could be even earlier than that, because maybe in the 21 Congress, if they have a tax reform, then that exemption could be lowered to that amount. So one of the things that people have to consider for those that are below the 23 but above the 7, right?
Yep.
You're going to have to use it now, or you're going to lose it, because once they take it away, they're not going to give it back.
So to all the people that are watching us right now, giving away valuable information that they just can't find. This is a really cool interview, and I'm really excited, and thank you so much. What do you recommend that people do to protect themselves from the things that they can't control? Kind of what you're talking about, where they just kind of change the goalpost and change the exemptions and either increase or reduce taxes, whatever the case may be.
Well, I think you need to be cognizant of what the potential changes are going to be and how that affects you. If it doesn't affect you, you don't need to do anything. But if it's going to affect you, then I think you might have to take some, not drastic steps, but some significant steps to minimize your tax and maximize what goes to your family, if that's your objective.
And is there a certain type of steps? And I know, like, in general terms, that's a tough thing to answer, but when it comes to a full analysis that you and your team provide, which would be a lot of questions, right? And based on whatever their goals and objectives are, is there certain things that, maybe on a 5 or 10,000 foot view level, you could share as something that they should look at?
Well, people get confused sometimes with an estate plan versus like wills and trusts, but they're all related together.
Got it.
All right. I can't have an estate plan without some documents to back that up, right? So embedded in those wills and trusts, I want to create when I use that 4-letter word trust, I know it's 5, but people think I'm cursing at them, all right? But I'm not, because if you really understand what a trust is, I liken it to a box, all right? And in that box, I'm going to put certain assets, right? And that box has instructions laying. There's instruction sheet laying in the bottom of the box, right? Now, are they truly, maybe they're revocable or irrevocable, but I want to have flexibility built into them so that if I do have future changes coming along, I can make those changes and not have to be boxed into the plan that I put in place at the time I created it. So flexibility is the key, and I think it is going to be now, because if you don't take advantage of some of the things, you'll lose them. So think about this. Today, $23 million exemption, 40% tax rate. Next year, how about a $7 million combined exemption, down from 23, and how about a 50% rate, maybe a 60% rate? And for the big kahunas that are over the 100 million, maybe a 70% rate.
Wow.
Clients say, can't happen. Would never get that high. I said, already has been. History repeats itself. The only difference is the rhyme is a little different.
Got it. So it sounds like to me that a lot of you folks out there, it's important to understand to get with the right kind of planners. And we always talk about this at Epic. You want to make sure your estate attorney is connected to your insurance agent, connected to your fiduciary advisor, connected to your accountant, because all the decisions, if it's made with all the professionals and they're on the same page, it's always going to be in your best interest if you're I dot and T crossing. Mike, what are some of the challenges you see that with people? Do they just kind of push it off until it's too late? Is it a matter of the advisor maybe not really connecting with the estate attorney to set up these meetings? What is the best way to streamline this so people really understand that it's important to reach out to you, number one, but number two, that the message could be heard and felt in their nervous system so they know to take action immediately and not be, in a position where they're not making a decision and it's just kind of floating around?
Good question. No one's going to die, We're all, that's somebody else's problem, not ours, right? So there's a little bit element of denial here, all right? So I'll deal with that later. So I've done some estate plans for some, big time CEOs, and they hadn't really done anything. And one of the conversations they said was, now you're not going to tell anybody about this, are you? I'm saying, no, absolutely not. But the point is, they say, you know, we were busy, we were always going to do it tomorrow. So it's one of those things that's on a lot of people's checklist. And my thinking is, let's get peace of mind. I don't want to wait until somebody's in the hospital and I'm doing a deathbed type of documentation, because I really can't think through as many things as I would like to, because there is a little bit of a panic. So while you have the time to do it, it's perfect time.
Well, every single day we're bringing great interviews with guys like Mike Gorman. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
And if you want to see and hear more content, please click the link below and hit the subscribe button.